Once in a while, an article comes in trying to make a point about the evils of society. The writer has noble intentions and wants to help those who are helpless and tormented by these evils of society, or more accurately, perceived evils of society, as the evil that the writer is talking about isn't really that evil. It's just a tad bit annoying for the normal average person. In other words, they're suffering from first world problems. But regardless of whether or not this perceived evil is actually evil, if you're gonna help people to stay away from those evil, I expect you guys to at least be a bit more knowledgeable about this evil. After all, knowing your enemy is a crucial part in winning a battle. If you don't know your enemies, how they work, how they look, and what they really are, then you're gonna do some silly mistakes like beating up a Jewish guy. This article is a good example. The article wants to talk about the dark side of video games and look at the rape threats, cyber groping, and sexual assaults happening inside the video game world. Now, all of these things are incredibly dark topics to talk about. That is before you get into the cyber groping part, and now you completely lost me. How the hell can someone cyber grope another person? What even is cyber groping? Are these trolls using those zombie killing keyboards from Typing Out the Dead, except they turn the zombie killing mode into a hentai protagonist mode? No, not that one. Yeah, close enough. But regardless, the writer wants to highlight the dark side of video games. I want to just put the best part here. It seems to me that the writer has no idea what she's talking about, which is basically every article that I talk about every day. But the question is, how stupid can these writers get? And whether or not that stupidity can make some really good comedy. Well, at the moment, you can just click the article down below, just scroll down a little bit further, and you can see a familiar sight. I mean, of course, Ivy from Soul Calibur has been the punching bag of moral guardians in the past, but wait a second, I was wrong. Apparently that's not Ivy from Soul Calibur. That's a random sexualized character in World of Warcraft. I mean, damn, if World of Warcraft looks that good, I would probably skip college entirely. What's so funny about this picture is that I posted this incredibly ridiculous discovery on Twitter about 2 or 3 days ago, and I assumed that they would change that factually incorrect image. But I checked on the article once again, and they haven't changed it at all. Yes, the article did not change this incredibly wrong caption or this incredibly wrong image. Did someone complain about the game being wrong only to be dismissed because of mansplaining or something? I don't know. The reality is, the article did not change this part, and I'm just laughing at the sheer incompetence of the writer. And that's unfortunately one of the biggest problems that moral guardians are facing right now. They don't understand these perceived evils or boogeymen that they're fighting. They look at something and just assume that these are the enemies that we should fight. And they're not fighting them for the good of many people, they're fighting them because it serves their ideology. So let's get into this epic failure of an article. The article starts off with a rather interesting typo. I think what you're trying to say is Noni O has no reason to presume she was unsafe. But regardless of that mistake, the article starts off by talking about the experience of Noni O at age 15, who has no reason to presume she was unsafe. I mean, she's sitting in a room playing video games in her cozy bedroom adorned with posters. Absolutely nothing can go wrong in the online sphere, right?
Uh-oh, you got it wrong!
But as she navigated into the globally popular World of Warcraft, at least at the time, she began to feel increasingly uncomfortable. That paragraph has 2 citations in there, and diving into the citations is always fun. Unfortunately, it's not as fun as last time, as both of these citations lead into 2 completely unrelated articles about Me Too. Nothing much related to gaming, so let's just skip these 2 and put them out into the garbage bin. Using voice chat to communicate, O hoped to swap tactics with other players, but when she does that, she found out that she's in a horrifying and degrading reverse harem situation. She's the only female in the arena! Then, after this nasty situation, she felt the hairs on her back of her neck prick up as the man began to gang up and intimidate her with a series of invasive questions. The paragraph cited another unrelated article about Me Too. This website really loves to talk about that. And the paragraph also cited an article that talks about someone slamming the Liberal Party's treatment of women. Ouch, I know you like self-loading, but save this one for the end at least. Anyway, O, which I accidentally spelled ouch one time with an appropriate typo, was asked questions such as, what are you wearing? How old are you? And my personal favorite, are you legal?
秋月くん、110番よ。
了解
She stopped responding to their questions, which begs the question why she responded in the first place instead of telling these people to go screw themselves, and the aggression increased. One of these men told her that he's masturbating and that he started moaning and calling her by her name. Damn, you're one hell of a magnet for a hentai protect. I mean, the other guy. Whatever. Anyway, she left the voice chat, which is something that she should have done when she booted up the game at all, and she said that she didn't play World of Warcraft for long right after that. The experience of some random dude moaning and masturbating to her name clearly disturbed her, and she was too ashamed to tell anyone about that incident. I can see how that incident can disturb you, especially at the age of 15, but come on, that's what happens when you open public voice chat. You don't jump into a hungry lion's den and complain that you lost your arms and legs. The public voice chat, or the chat in general, is something that you cannot control. You cannot control how people behave in the online sphere. Even if you have rules put in place, they're going to break them. If you're telling the chat to behave, they're going to do the opposite. If you're one of those sad authoritarian lunatics who think that they're so powerful that they can control what people type on the internet, I assure you that you have a much better chance finding a birthday cake on your pet's anus. The article goes on to talk about the demographics of the video game culture and how it has changed dramatically since the 1980s and the 1990s. And this is where you are wrong, writer. The dramatic change happens because the newer ESA statistics also count women who play smartphone games as part of the gaming demographic, even though smartphone games are so easily accessible that they can't even be considered gaming. They're gaming the same way fidget spinners count as gaming. You cannot apply the demographic of smartphone gamers to the demographic of more hardcore, more enthusiastic gamers. They're not the same. There needs to be a distinction, but you people can't freaking make that because you are not gamers. Link down below is an article that breaks down the type of games that women play. Go check that one out for more details. But despite women now representing a significant stake in what has become a multi-billion-dollar industry, no, they're not. The last decade has seen gaming become notorious for sexism, sexual harassment, and trolling. Shouldn't gaming be more peaceful to women now that it's half of the gamers globally? It's almost like that demographic shift isn't really that accurate to begin with, because women are jumping into a more enthusiastic gaming community that mostly consists of men. The article then talks about how 63% of people think that sexism is rampant in the gaming community. That's not a helpful statistic at all. That's about as helpful as saying 63% of people think that Bigfoot exists. And it is also revealed that 63% of women had been called really nasty names. That's nothing. You should see what the straight guys had to get through when you dare to suggest that traps aren't gay. But somehow the World of Warcraft girls said that the reason why all of this happens is because of the rampant sexualization of female characters in video games and the normalization of violence against women. In other words, if you fap to Ivy from Soul Calibur, that automatically puts you on the same level as Harvey Weinstein. Play a couple of matches with your favorite main, Brian Fury, and you'll end up doing what he loves to do after the match. Do you know what's the best part from this paragraph? The writer puts hyperlinks in 2 sentences talking about the overt sexualization of female characters and the normalization of violence against women, in video games presumably, but the links linked into, you guessed it, 2 completely unrelated articles. If you can't cite your sources properly, I'm starting to have doubts on this garbage, writer. And we did talk about how you put Ivy from Soul Calibur in there to reference World of Warcraft in one of the most spectacular epic fails I've ever seen in an article. As long as female characters have been featured in gaming, they have been depicted as sex objects with huge boobs and tiny waists. In combat games, they have skimpy bikini armor that wouldn't serve any purpose. I think it affects how men treat women in gaming. They see women as property for them to abuse or harass. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The things that you do in video games will influence the things that you do in real life. Where have I ever heard that one before? The writer then talks about the Me Too movement, obviously. This website really loves to talk about that. But no one has talked about Me Too in the gaming industry and publicly speak about sexual abuse and harassment. And that's where the groping came in. The writer then talk about how this scientist, VR tech expert Jessica Outlaw published a study about women's experiences in VR, which are not exactly something amazing as they found out to be sexually harassed by people on VR chat or something. Again, you don't get to jump into a swimming pool and complain that you get wet. The nature of VR is unfortunately open for abuse, and people just love to abuse that system. But the kicker about this entire thing is the amount of privilege that people who complain about cyber groping ass. I mean, say what you want about people getting harassed online in video games or something. At least gaming peripherals are cheap. At least cheaper when compared to VR. VR is freaking expensive, you know? You need either a good console or a good graphics card to run those games. If your current issue is being groped in VR, I think you should stop playing VR chat and start start playing Beat Saber or something. One really bizarre thing I found is the fact that the scientist herself is part of the statistic because she was once abused in a VR social space while conducting a business meeting. Wait a minute, you're telling me that you're having a business meeting in VR space? That's the stupidest freaking idea I have ever seen. I mean, sure, that sounds cool on paper until you realize that 1, everyone needs to have a VR headset, and 2, everyone, and I mean everyone, will be using their own VR chat avatars, which means that there are extremely good chances that you're gonna have a serious and formal business meeting with a lowly, a deformed creature, and a serial masturbator. Do you see how this idea of yours is actually freaking stupid? And the writer realizes that this is a stupid freaking idea, as within 5 minutes a male avatar insinuated that she's having sex with her colleague, and this male avatar asks her if this colleague that she met has a green dick because her avatar is green. It was humiliating on a professional level. You think? Who the hell has this brilliant idea of using VR chat as a formal business meeting ground? It's about as appropriate as using Disneyland as your funeral space. I mean, goddamn, this is one of those ideas that looks so good on paper, but in reality, it's a hot freaking mess. If this practice is getting more popular in tech circles, I swear to God, I'd rather be farming. I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of hikikomoris who conduct their business meetings in VR because they're too anxious to meet up in person. Another male avatar slapped her across the face, an experience that created a disturbing impact in her life. Maybe don't use VR chat as your freaking formal meeting space. I have never seen something so out of touch and unprofessional. It sounds like something that would come out of .hack or something. The article then talks about Ellie McLean, who has experienced everything from casual sexism to full-blown misogyny. Once again, the paragraph linked into a completely unrelated article. It tells me that the person who is in charge of writing this article, or perhaps the entire website, is too goddamn lazy to provide sources or hyperlinks of any of their claims. Anyway, this Ellie turns out to be a cosplayer who is also a passionate advocate for women in games. She talked about how being a woman cosplaying even a vaguely sexualized character really exposed her to the rampant misogyny in the industry. She's also an activist herself, and she brought up issues like sexual harassment and representation in game narratives. Okay, one issue is totally legitimate and should be talked about, and the other issue is basically you saying, please game industry senpai, I want to be in a video game, please notice me. Women are dramatically underrepresented in the Australian games industry, which contradicts your previous statement about half of women in games, but oh well. There are only 19% of female out of 928 people currently employed by gaming development studios. The writer wants this issue to be addressed, and McLean even said that her goal is to eradicate the idea that she's the only woman in the room. Eradicate the idea that she's the only woman in the room. That's a really pathetic goal to achieve. That only highlights that your state of mind is, oh no, I cannot work in the gaming industry because there are no women in the gaming industry, because I have no real passion towards video games. Let me tell you a story. I was shopping for groceries in a traditional market, and that traditional market is filled with middle-aged women who wants to buy groceries to provide food for their family. I'm like the only young male person in the entire market acting as a customer, but I keep shopping anyway because I'm the only one who cooks my food. I don't care who's populating the market, I just want my freaking groceries. If you're a woman and you're passionate about video game development or video games in general, the fact that most of your audiences are men should not deter you from your passion. If it does, that shows to me that you're not interested in video games. I have liked or even loved things that generally women like. I'm sure that there are tons of guys here who like things that generally women like as well. And they don't care if the people who like them are mostly women. They just like them anyway. What's up with these women in STEM wanting to be recognized as strong, independent women, but they all end up wanting to be coddled and given special treatment? Anyway, McLean promised that one of the ways to get more women in gaming is to have more female and non-white characters in video games, forgetting the fact that female and non-white characters in video games have existed for years now, especially the past 3, and we didn't see any recent development in the demographic. But hey, this isn't about the truth. This is about pushing a narrative, and their narrative is, oh please senpai, notice me, I am a woman and a person of color. And here it is. Here's where the article throws in the big guns, or rather an old gun that barely works anymore. The article cited Anita Sarkeesian and Gamergate, so 2 guns that barely work anymore. Great job, article. Great job. Great job with the game dropping and referencing someone who hasn't been relevant since 2015. Here's the attention that you ordered. 700,000 in cash, please. Oh, by the way, the insanity didn't stop there. I know a woman at a very prominent company in the gaming and VR industry who told me that she thinks about Gamergate every time she posts on social media. I mean this with absolute sincerity.
Stop it. Get some help.
Oh, I'm not done with the cringe. Someone actually wrote a book titled From Minecraft to Misogyny. Seriously, no. I mean, seriously. You know what? Let's just read the end of this article. Male peers often tell Lode that females are simply too sensitive about the issue and need to toughen up, but she's fierce in her assertion that girls and women should be able to play games without worrying about men being creepy. No, you can't. You're not a goddess who is able to control people's free will. There's a very good reason why your male peers often tell you that you should toughen up, because that's the only way for you to solve this entire problem. I've worked with young girls at international educational company. Girls make games and some of them already have stories. It's heartbreaking. No kid should have to worry about being humiliated or seen as lesser just because they're a girl. Welcome to reality, lady. You're gonna be looked down upon by pretty much anyone after all this garbage you said. But O is determined and ready to fight back. Change might be slow, but it's definitely coming, she says. We're not going anywhere. Jesus Christ, lady. Seriously? You're gonna stay there and not going anywhere to fight against harassment in video game space? I have a much better luck of finding a working iPhone under the Mariana Trench.